right? Like, imagine you get on the plane, right? You're sitting there. This is your pilot. We're going to be taking off in about 6 minutes. I hope to get you to LA. What do you mean? You hope to get us to LA? Are you taking us or not? Right? Like, that's funny.
Get me off this plane.
I know.
This podcast comes with a listener warning. You might think it's because of the guest on the show, but it was actually me. Gary John Bishop is back, you guys. I'm so excited. He is the author of the book Unfuck Yourself, and his new book, Stop Doing That Shit, is available today or tomorrow, depending on when this airs. May 7th, the new book. Super excited. He will be on the Today Show, May 7th. So if you're listening to this before, make sure you tune in to the show. But I just adore Gary for so many reasons. He is just the king of this urban philosophy, which is get out of your own way. Stop doing that shit. Stop making excuses. Make your life better. Live in the moment. Stop seeking this purpose and these dreams. And it's really interesting because my book that's coming out in December, I actually had a chapter called Why Hopes and Dreams Are for Losers. And then it got edited and it was made to be a little softer. But it was interesting because we talk about hope and dreams and what that means. And I have a theory that dreams are a good thing. But I think when it comes down to what Gary and I were talking about, we have the same definition of purpose and dream. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but more along the lines of pick where you're going and go there versus I hope I get there. I dream this. It's more of this is what I'm going to do. And so I really, really value our conversation we had today. And I just value his methodology and the things he says, and more of the idea that we should just live with purpose, live on purpose, instead of constantly being in this search for our purpose. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode with Gary John Bishop. His book is available now.
Welcome to the Same 24 Hours podcast with Meredith Atwood. We all have the same 24 hours each day, and it's what we do with those hours that makes all the difference between our health, happiness, and success.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Same 24 Hours podcast. I'm your host, Meredith Atwood. Today's guest, he's back. Gary John Bishop is here. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Meredith. How are you?
I'm great. I am actually in the process of birthing a second book baby, and I know you are having yours coming out. So
That's right. Right. We're both expectant parents here.
Mine's not till December, so yours will, well, actually this podcast will air on Pub Day is the plan. So
Brilliant. That's awesome.
So your new book, Stop Doing That Shit.
Right. Wouldn't be like me. I mean, I can't have one called like Love Yourself or something. I can't. It's got to go the other direction.
I'm so glad though. Every time I hear love yourself or self-care, I just kind of cringe, and I don't want to cringe because you do want to love yourself and you do want to care for yourself, but that was never the starting point for me.
Right. I think you got to really watch what you're saying, right? Because I've come across many people in my time who are on some trip for self-love, and really it's just an opportunity to indulge themselves and hide out from all their problems. Like they just they're not. I'm self-love right now. They're repossessing my house, but So
That's an interesting thought. Indulge themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a hideout. So, I'm not like anybody. I'm the same as everybody else. I like a bit of self-care and self-love, but I don't really want to hang out there too much. I'm too busy, and I've got a busy life, and I like to keep what my life's about being the focus. And if my life's about me, it's not very interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you need to love other people too.
well, I think, look, here's something I've definitely noticed. Whenever life isn't going well, you'll notice you're in some kind of internal dialogue with yourself about yourself. So when life isn't going well, 100% of the time it's about you. So it's never like life's going terribly because of that person. It's life's going terribly because of that person and how I feel about that. Right. So it's invariably, no matter which way you twist it, if you sit with it for a moment, you'll see when life isn't going well, it's about you.
And that's really hard for some people to take.
Right. I mean, look, life doesn't always go your way. In fact, anytime you're up to anything in life, I don't care what it is, you're going to start a business, you're going to get in a relationship, you're going to have kids, you're going to, whatever your thing is. And most people don't want to do what I'm about to say, but you have to include all the ways that this could go wrong for you. You have to give it some thought so that if that should happen, you're not sitting there like surprised or victimized by or like, no, I mean, this is what I bought into, right? I mean, people don't want to do this. Like, they don't believe, like, the moment you say to somebody, okay, let's get married, I do, right? Whatever it is. You're buying into the possibility of a painful divorce, right? That's part of the equation. It's part of the equation. Now, nobody's getting married. But like, well, when this turns out to be an absolute disaster, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that very well could be where this goes, and that by you buying into love and happily ever after, you're also buying into not that.
Right.
You got to get the whole spectrum. You don't get to cherry pick it, right? And I think that's another thing that we do in life. We tend to try and pick things that we think will have less problems. I mean, that's just an error of the highest degree, right? Because no matter what you do, it'll come at you with its own set of problems and issues and ways that it could go wrong. Anytime you take something in life on, you're taking on the whole of it, not just the bits you like.
Yeah. Gosh, that's such a good point. I was trying to explain this to my 11-year-old, not exactly this about divorce, but yesterday he just had a bad day, right? And it was about math, and math is just the worst thing and life is over. And I tried to tell him, look, life is great, but life is not always great. And no one promised you it was going to be awesome all the time. And he looked at me like I just wounded him.
Right.
And I mean, it was that might be a little much for an 11-year-old, but I mean,
I don't think it is.
I wish someone would have told me that younger.
Yeah.
You're not entitled to happiness all the time.
Right. Like, I've got 3 sons and I just adore my children. I not any more than anybody else who adores their children. I'm not like some kind of super dad, but I adore my children. I adore my wife and I adore my children. And I quite like guitars, right? So kind of goes in that order. But anyway, I mean, all 3 of my sons. My youngest is 4, my oldest is 14. All 3 of my sons play soccer, and in soccer you get hurt, like the ball hits you in the face, and so I often go to games and my kid will hit the ground and they've been hurt, and you'll hear my voice say the same thing every time: "Get up."
Yep.
Right. I don't say, "Oh my gosh, what's happened to you? Oh, looks like a sore one." We'll sort that out on the drive home.
Right.
There's a game going on. Get on your feet.
Get up or be trampled, man.
Right. And I'm really not like a harsh dad or something, or somebody who's like some kind of meathead or something. I'm not like that. But I do want them to get like whatever you're engaging in life, it's not always going to be cherry pies and bubble gum. There's going to be times when, even though you might love that thing, right? Like you might, once upon a time, I had a client who, he owned a business and he came to me with like, "Oh, I can't deal with all these people and they're so annoying and nobody's listening and they won't take the training and they're just underdeveloped and da-da-da-da-da," and on and on and on. And I said, "Dude, that's your job."
Right. Right.
Right, but in his mind, his job was like just put the team together and turn his back and go drink coffee at Starbucks or something,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's why you're there. You're actually there to provide that. And it was like an awakening for this guy, to be fair to him. He was like, "Oh my gosh, it actually is why I'm actually there to solve all those problems, aren't I?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "And you're there to solve them next week too."
and forever until you change your job.
Right.
It's
or
so funny.
hire somebody.
I was always a hardworking kid, but then I never really had like a lot of jobs. I just didn't grow up school of hard knocks. And so when I went to college, I had a job in a smoothie store, and this other girl and all we wanted to do was smoke cigarettes and not work. Right. And I was more just wanting to hang out with her and wanting to be cool. And so this guy came in to get a smoothie, and we both must have rolled our eyes. And he said, "Wow, I'm really sorry that you have to make smoothies at Planet Smoothie."
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed because that was not who I was.
Right.
And I'll never forget that. And I've taken that with me in every job I've had since. Like, no, I am in Planet Smoothie. I'm making smoothie, But it's funny. We think like, oh my God, why do I have to serve you at this restaurant? Or because it's your job.
Right. Well, it can actually go even deeper, right? So I had a speaking event a couple of months ago for my publisher, actually, to all their people who are coming in from all over the world, and down in Miami. And I went down to talk to like a couple of hundred people in this big, nice hotel. And, I had to wear a jacket, which was just like the worst day of my life. But anyway, so I went down there and I talked to them about what it is to have purpose, right? And I'm a little like, I'm Scottish. I'm like constantly annoyed. But anyway, I was kind of annoyed at this whole notion of finding your purpose, right? Because, am I freaking Sherlock Holmes? What are we doing, right? Like, what do you mean find it, right? Are we on the hunt? Are we prowling? Are we hiding out in the bushes? What are we doing? And I really started what got me about it was, again, I often do this. I often look at something that somebody might say, and I'll look at the whole impact of what they say, not just the good bits. Like, find your purpose, right? Which intimates immediately that you don't have one. Now, I know how human beings work. I've been working with human beings at the level of their humanity for many, many years, at the level of their humanity, not the level of their psychology, not at the level of their humanity, which is a whole other conversation. But I know what human beings do when they don't have. And when human beings don't have, and they find out that this other thing is the thing they're supposed to have, something called desperation kicks in. They get desperate. They get frantic. They get anxious. They get worried. It grows. It becomes a bedfellow in your thoughts. So the whole idea of finding your purpose just kind of grinds my gears, because there's no purpose to find. There's only purpose to create. And so when you talk there about working in a smoothie shop, when you work in the smoothie shop, for as long as you work there, that is your life's purpose.
Right.
Until you leave, and then it's something else. And that you should give yourself fully to that smoothie shop. Why? Because that is what you're doing with your life. Or you could, ponder the future and be miserable in the present. Right. And so, I choose to live a life of purpose regardless of what I'm doing. And when I gave this speech at this big fancy hotel, the thing that was really inspiring to me after it was, I had to go and sit down at this dinner table and use knives and forks, which again, come on. Anyway, so
knives and forks. What the hell?
Right. Come on. Like, I thought I'd given all that up now. Now that I'm all avant-garde and famous, I don't have to use them all. Anyway, so
pizza only. Pizza.
Right. Pizza for everybody. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and this lady comes up to me, and she was working the tables. And she said, "Do you mind if I talk to you?" I said, "No, go ahead. What's going on?" She goes, "I was so inspired by what you said. Like, that really inspired me. Like, thank you so much." Now, that was music to my ears, right? Because the woman that works the tables, that's my people right there, right? These are my folks, right? I coach CEOs and musicians, all kinds of people, but these are my people. This is me I'm talking to here. Like, this is my family, my friends, this is my group, right? And what she really got was that this is what she's doing right now, and she should give herself to all of it, right? Not hold some back for some future day, and that she should be fully self-expressed in what she's doing right now. So that is to say, rather than finding purpose, she has to live with purpose or live on purpose, live a purposeful life. And that's not given by what you do. that is given by who you are about what you do. That is living with purpose.
Living with your own integrity, right? Showing up. Yeah.
Yeah, just being I don't care what you do. You could be opening doors at the Hilton. I don't care. Like, just be your greatest self right there in that moment. It'll be good practice for when you're raising orphan koala bears in your future.
Okay, so how do you reconcile being in the now and living your current purpose, being purposeful with shooting for dreams? Like, where does that kind of all blend on?
Yeah, I think the problem with dreams is, and this, I would say this to anybody listening right now, you got to check in and ask yourself, this dream that I've got, what's it supposed to fix? And everybody's dream fixes something. The problem is, if you ever accomplish that dream, and you might, it doesn't fix it. So you have to come up. You have to come up with another one, right? So, I live a life of intention. There are things that I'm up to. There's things that I'm doing. There's games that I play in my life, financial games, games with my body, games with my family. And to me, they're all games, and I'm out to win them all. Right? I'm out to win them all. I want to win all those games, but not in a competitive way. In a way that, like, I'm kind of grateful for the opportunity to play them, like that I get to use my life for this right now. And that includes, like, being a dad. I mean, anybody who's a parent will tell you it's easy to get caught up in the mundacity of parenting, right? Like, oh gosh, like, do you want a sandwich? You want crunchy or smooth on that? Right?
You're just a short order cook.
Right. I mean, you are, right? And I've really badly paid one at that. Right. But anyway, right. And you'll never say stop so much in all your life. You never knew that was what you were signing up for. Right.
Stop or don't touch that.
You're right. Right. Or ask your mother. That's another one, actually. But anyway, you'll need to ask your mom about that, because I don't make the decisions anywhere, actually. So you're going to have to ask for permission. So we should go together, because I'd like to go to my bed shortly. But anyway, when I'm with my kids, I have to remind myself to be purposeful with my children. I have to remind myself to be there, as I like to say, to be there for what's there.
Yes.
Rather than in some kind of internal state wanting this to be something else. Because wanting this to be something else actually will not alter this. I still have to be with this. Which people get a little freaked out, because they think if I be with this, it means I'm stuck with this. And it's not. It means, like, any location you find yourself in life, that you fully immerse yourself in that thing, because that is where your life is at in that moment. That is. And life is a series of moments collapsed on top of one another. Mostly what we do is spend our time in this moment, worried about a future moment. And then you die.
So true. I was talking to Kate Northrup on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I told her this kind of just occurred to me, what you said. It occurred to me like last year, and which is a real shame, because I'm like 38. No, I'm not. I'm 30. I'm almost 40. It was 38 when it like occurred to me. And it's funny, because especially with children, because you're always trying to manage whatever it is, get them out the door to the bus. And I was telling her the other day, my son was a sloth riding a turtle, trying to go, get out the door.
Yeah.
And normally I would have been losing my shit. Like, you've got to come on, dude. But instead I just thought, you know what? He's 11. He's going to be 18 tomorrow. And you need to just calm down. And I just took that in for a moment. And I looked at the back of his hair with his cowlick. And I thought, I'm just so glad this kid is mine. You know what I mean? And I've tried to do that, because as a parent, you're just doing damage control for yourself and for others. And and then pretending you
know what you're doing.
Right. I mean, I don't have a clue. But, I mean, and expectations are just the killers of our souls. Like, we just expect the kids to be a certain way. We expect life to go a certain way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had, so if you don't create anything in your life that inspires you, that is like some kind of context to call you out. You'll be left with just the content of your life. So you'll be left with just the stuff that you do. And that's how most people live. Most people start with a context. So I'll give you an example. I don't want this to sound too abstract. So, like, some people might start off saying, you know, I want to start my own business. I'm interested in having freedom and power and real wealth and, you know, the opportunity to create something magical. And then within a very short period of time, what it's really about is answering the phone, tracking your credit cards, filling out invoices, dealing with product, unhappy clients. Like, that's all the content, right? Yeah. And you got lost in the content. So as a parent, you got lost in the content. What's the content? I'm dropping you off at Taekwondo for 3 times this week, right? And you're terrible at it, right? You're not even
Taekwondo.
good.
Get you
you're
every time.
You're not even good. There was like a 3-year-old girl that took you out like 2 days ago, and you're 13. Like, you know, it's not good, right? But anyway, obviously I'm kidding. But that's the content of being a parent. The content of being a parent is school and homework, and the content of being a parent is when they spend way too long in the bathroom and you know something's wrong in there, right? And you can start to smell what's wrong. You know, there's the content of being a parent is when they're sick. Content of being a parent is when you can't go out because you got a kid, right? Or you can't watch this thing on television because they're still awake, right? Or when you say to them, go to bed, and they say, I'm not tired, and you say, I know, but I am, go to bed.
Right.
Right. So that's all the content. And if you focus on that content, you'll miss the context. You'll miss the opportunity that this is. So the most inspiring person for me that does that is my wife, right? So many years ago, we only had one son at the time. And I know she was just like this woman on fire. And I was on the road for 33 weeks of the year. It was insane. And she was like this super mom, you know, like soccer, taekwondo, it's all done, you know, eating, you know, organic food. And I'm like, what the hell's going on with this woman, right? Like, this is insane, right? So then one day I just said, what's it like? You're always up about this. How come you're not like, for the, you know? So she takes out her phone, opens it up, slides it across the table to me. I look at her phone and she's got the calendar open, right? And there's all these appointments and I'm like, all right, you're organized. So what? Tons of people are organized, right? So who cares about being organized? And, you know, she did her usual. She rolled her eyes and said, open one of the appointments, goofball. So I opened one of the appointments and it was a soccer appointment. She was taking her son to soccer. And it said soccer, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, blah, 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 field. And then underneath it in capital letters, it said, creating a man. And I'm like, what the heck? And it hit me. I was like, I got like it hit me in the chest. I was moved by, you know, I was like, this is what this is for you. This isn't about soccer or, you know, anything. It's not about that stuff. That's all content. For you, this is about creating a man. Like, this is what this is all about. There's nothing else going on here. That you have to find that bit of change to go through the toll, or you have to, you know, do a washing at midnight to make sure he's got those pants that he likes for next morning for school. Like, that's all creating a man for you.
Wow.
And so that's called living on purpose. Like, she lives with purpose. Like, it's there. It exists for her. That's what inspires her. That's what has her get out of bed. That's what has her cut the sandwiches in a certain way before they go to school. That's what has her make sure they're there on time. It's got nothing to do with being on time or sandwiches or pants. That's the content. What's important?
You should wear pants.
Pants are always good for school, I find. They're always a handy reminder of your civility. So anyway, and you can create context or purpose like that anywhere in your life. You know, like my life is just about making a difference for as many people as I can make. That's it. That's what I do. I go to the supermarket. I'm there for that. I mean, I'm picking up milk while I'm there, but like, I'm making a difference. I'm talking to people. People ask me questions. I'm going to find something out about you pretty rapidly and make a difference. Like I went to Best Buy a while ago, and like the person behind the counter was like moved. They were like, "Oh my gosh, it's like so awesome!" Like they were ready to take on the world. I was only there for 2 minutes, but that's what my life's about.
Right.
It's not Best Buy. I can do that anytime. My life's about making a difference, whether it's with a Uber driver, whether it's with a person who comes to install the cable, or whatever the thing is. There's a purposeful life. It's for a purpose. And it's one that I created that doesn't exist there by default. What's there by default? Nothing. Then I just got content. Then I'm just going to Best Buy. Or then I'm just staying in for the cable guy to get here.
Right.
Right. Or my life is about making a difference. Or creating a man. Or inspiring others. Or, a life of joy and compassion and adventure. Right, it's all context. It's all, and you, and this is for any of your listeners. No one will create that for you.
Yes, amen. So
right,
true.
You have to create that. Why? Because if you don't, the alternative is this life of content, and I don't mean being content. I mean content. I mean just things, doing things that have no significance, no meaning to you, no ultimate fulfillment in it. I mean, my wife is watching her oldest son grow, and she's been creating that for 14 years. And it still lights her up like a Christmas tree. I mean, it's like she watches him turning into this kind of young man, and she's inspired by it. This is her life. She gave her life to that. She's not looking for anything in return. This is just what she's made her life. He's going to do whatever he's going to do. But
right.
It's for her, it's about, this is what I put in my life to inspire myself.
Go ahead.
Well, she's going to keep it in her life until it stops doing that.
So to contrast your wife's calendar, when we moved to Kansas in January. We're moving to Massachusetts next month. But when we got here, my son, James, who's 11, was failing math. And it was just because we moved from a new school. They did the other stuff the other semester, and he was just backwards. He had a huge gap and was failing. And so I get called in to a teacher's conference to be told this information. And he has to go to math club 3 times a week, like at 8 o'clock, And so I put it on my calendar because I was just so like, this could not be happening right now kind of situation. Life was happening to me. What the hell? Like, it was just, it was a really bad place. And so I put it on the calendar as math tutoring, fuck my life.
Right. What a context.
Calendar that way. And it was kind of to be funny, but then after 3 days of it, I couldn't look at it anymore because I was like, that is just such a bad way to look at the situation.
Right.
And I mean, so just to contrast creating a man versus FML.
Right.
But yeah, you have to put things in motion day to day that you're excited about. And what I ended up turning that time, it was only a 5-minute drive to school, but it was 5 minutes I had with just him and not his sister. And we had the most interesting conversations 3 days a week in those 5 minutes.
Right.
Once I decided my life was over. It was me being a brat, but.
Right. So then that 3 nights a week could be like deepening a profound connection with my son.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's got a whole other slant to it.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes deepening a profound connection with him is like asking him about the best YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. It's like whatever's on their mind, which is another problem, like I think as parents, like I want them to know what's on my mind. And really the question should be what's going on in theirs, like how you doing? And, what are you struggling with, or anything you're suffering with, or, like, what's it like when you do this? I remember when I used to go to school, what's it like for you when you go to school and face that? Oh, yeah, that sounds terrible. Yeah, I hated that too. Like an opportunity to connect, which, I'm under no illusions. That's why I said that earlier. I don't pretend to my children that I've got all my shit together. I've just got enough together to pay the mortgage and keep you in shoes.
Right. But at the same time, it's very important to not emotionally dump on them.
Look, kids are going to kids are going to do what you did. Might be bad news.
Right.
But it could be really bad news because what they're going to do is they're going to hang on to something that they shouldn't hang on to, make it mean something, and then live their life by whatever that is. Because that's what you did.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what your parents did. So basically, as children, what you're doing is cherry picking your life to provide yourself with some certainty moving forward. Right? Like, that's the truth. That's the truth. That's the truth. Good. I'm ready. Right? And in the new book, I actually talk about this. I actually talk about subconsciously you're driven to make the same mistakes over and over, then solve them. That's what you do. That's what your life's about. Right? Your self-sabotage is a deliberate attempt to keep you safely ensconced in the life you currently have. Right? So that's why when you get close to something, right, like, oh, this is going good. This is pretty awesome. And then you throw a hand grenade in it.
Right. What is with that?
I know.
What is that?
I'm going to tell you.
Tell me.
Right, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to give you the whole thing because you need to read the book. But
read the book.
Right. But the book is very much like the first book. It's very much like the first book because it's a short, sharp jolt to the senses. Right. So anyway, in the new book, I talk about, you see, subconsciously you're driven to create the same problems because you're designed to overcome those problems. So you'll keep coming up with them so that you can solve them, to come up with them and solve them, right? And in the book you actually get to discover the 3 problems that you're out to overcome, like the ones that you specifically are out. It's very revealing, right? And in that process, if life is going in a certain way and it's going well, and it's going that way, and if it keeps going in that way, it'll actually contradict with what you've subconsciously concluded, you'll sabotage it.
Right. If it's contrary to one of your deep, dark, evil core beliefs.
Right.
You've got to unearth, right?
Right. But in the book, you actually show you yours. You'll actually see yours. You'll actually be like, oh my gosh, that is what. No, it's awesome. It's brilliant. I'll tell you what's brilliant about it. Like, you'll have so many ahas. Like, your life will make sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you one in mine, right? So one of the things that I uncovered about myself was that I have a very distinct view of life itself. Right? It's very distinct for me. And it took a while to see it. I couldn't quite see it. I had to look in my life to see what I was doing, almost like reverse engineering. Like, this is how I live my life. Why am I living my life that way? Life must be a certain way for me. What is the way that it is? And so what I started to see was that for me, at a very profound level, life is a struggle, right? Mm-hmm. And it has to be one. So if my life starts to go in the direction of, ease or just satisfaction or joy, I will screw that up. Like, I'll do whatever I need to do. I'm not getting up in the morning going, well, let me screw this up. But there'll be things that come up that will compel me to burn it. Like, it needs to get burned to the ground so that I can get back to the struggle again.
Right.
I can't. And one of the things, I've had 4.5 decades of no success, right? And about half a decade of growing success, right? So I had 40-something years of just struggle. Hard work hard, And then suddenly I started to get this success, and like the bank account was no longer overdrawn. Like, there was money if I needed it. All the bills are paid, and they're all paid automatically. And I can go on vacation if I want. I could buy that jacket if I wanted. I can take the day off or the week off. I could take 2 weeks off right now. Starting if I wanted, I could just take 2 weeks off. And it was a complete, mind F. Right? I was like, what the heck? Like, I couldn't be with it. It was like horrible. Like, there was nothing to grind up against. There's nothing. I was lost. And that this new life was demanding that I be someone that I subconsciously couldn't align with. I couldn't align with this new life. I couldn't line up with it. Right? My wife would be like, let's go to the beach and hang in. I'd be like, well, why don't we take some plastic bags and clean it while we're there or something? You know, like, you know, anything. I can't. I needed to be in the struggle.
Yeah.
And so the first place I noticed it, by the way, was I was coming up with all these like brilliant ideas for how to spend all the money I'd made. And I'd noticed that I was on this kind of one-man mission to become poor again. Like, I really like it. And the things that I wanted to buy were compelling. It was like, oh, no, we really need that. Right? Definitely, you should get one of those. Right? No matter how much money that costs. I was like strategizing ways to systematically empty the bank account so that I could go back to the struggle. Like, that's when every bit of my hard wiring could now engage with that certainty of life, that life is a struggle. And that's where I really got the idea for this book. I really got because I really wanted to know like what compels me to sabotage my life, what compels another to do it. And what it does is like the reason you're compelled to self-sabotage is because it makes life predictable. You know that life and you survive that life. You make it in that life. And the other life where that can't exist, where, for instance, the struggle can't exist, that's just like absolute chaos and uncertainty to me. I don't know anything about that life. I don't even know who to be there. Right? I don't know who to be, right? And by the way, we sabotage in lots of different ways, like, you know, that room in your house that you've been meaning to clean up, and eventually you do clean it up and it's pristine, but you can't sustain it. Like, it'll just look like garbage again within a week. Because to keep it in that condition would require you to be someone that you're just not comfortable with being.
That's really interesting. That's about cleaning my kitchen.
You get to be overwhelmed.
And it's just going to get dirty anyway. And if it's perfect, then I'm trying to live up to what my mom always wanted. Like, my mom's kitchen was always perfect.
Right.
And so anytime I clean the kitchen, I'm like, oh, it looks like my childhood kitchen. Well, I can't sustain that.
Right.
So just let it get dirty.
Right. Right. I could give you like so many insights about that, but I won't. But anyway, so
I'm working on those.
Those were 30 good ones. But you see, that's an example of like, that's a situation that's demanding of you to be somebody else, but somehow you can't seem to get yourself there. Right? You can do it for a little bit, produce the result, and then you'll trash it.
And I think we talked about it last time you were on about food and body weight and lying to myself in my food journal and that whole, you know, because I've always been quote unquote overweight, even though I'm not really that much anymore. But I have a hard time getting, you know, when I start seeing success in that area, I'll blow it because I've always been this way. Right.
So this is really good because what it's getting you to is like this, you're like the almost woman.
I like that. I'm going to get a t-shirt made with that.
Right.
That sounds right.
So you're like the almost woman. And when you're the almost woman, you get to say something. You get to say something to yourself, either about yourself or about life or something like that. But it's a predictable and consistent thing you get to say, right? Like I noticed with life as a struggle, what I got to say was, yeah, see, it'll never happen for me. And I was able to get to say that. Like, and I could say it, like it never happened for me. I was talented, but it never happened. Right? And I could get to live that life and that struggle. And so now I'm in this whole other world of like exploring and noticing my propensity and the pull for me to take my life in a certain direction. But my ability to intervene with that now has gotten so much stronger. Like my experience of myself, I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, it's radical. Like, I experience myself as expanding. Like, I experience myself as becoming a greater sense of self. You know, with an ability to operate in areas of my life that I would once have steered clear of because if I'd sorted that area of my life out, I could no longer continue perpetuating the myth of who I'd become. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but how do you reconcile like the whole idea of the dream? You're living with a purpose and you're just going forward. But I mean, obviously, all these years of hard work, you had. I mean, maybe dream's not the right word, but you had goals, right?
Yeah, I used to do goals. I used to do dreams. I did all that shit. I just do shit now, right? And I really mean that. Like, it's on like Donkey Kong. Like, if I'm doing something, we're just doing it. And there's no, well, we tried. I don't do that anymore. And that's not arrogant. I don't want people. It's just not part of my vocabulary.
Sure.
I'm just not doing it. Like, I don't get in my car to drive the kids to soccer and say, well, the goal is to get them to soccer, right? We're just going. We might hit traffic. We could be in an accident. There could be lots. They're still going. We're just going to soccer, and we're going to deal with everything that comes up between here and soccer, right? And, you know, we're going to the beach for the day, or we're, you know, it's test time at school, or whatever the thing is. There's no like, oh, well, you know, the goal is to get the kids breakfast, right? No, they're getting breakfast, right? And I have that same matter-of-factness about my career. It's like, oh, I'm just writing another book. What's it about? I don't know yet. I haven't started writing it yet, but I'm doing another one.
Right.
Right, or this thing or that thing, or, you know, like I've got lots of big projects coming up this year that are just awesome, that are really, in fact, when this show airs, so if you're listening to this show today, I'm on the Today Show today.
Oh, right? Good. Well, maybe I'll release it the day before so they can remember to record it. I'll do it May 6th.
I'm up there in New York, so I'm going to be. Yeah. But that's the kind of stuff like that I set myself. Like, all right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, and then I you know, and I'm not saying this like I am not a big shot. You know, I'm like a blue collar man with a curious mind. But I'm not somebody who just like snap your fingers and get it done. I have to find out all the ways that you can do things, and you know how is that possible, and who do I need to talk to? But I do set myself like an unrealistic life, and this is why I don't have dreams. I don't have dreams. I come up with things that, you know, like you might dream something up, right? But I immediately bring it into my life and make my life about it.
Right.
It's not a goal for me. I'm doing it. I'm in it. It's like when you're writing a book, you're writing it. You're in it. You're actually in this moment being an author. It's not like, oh, one of these days I hope to be an author. When you're writing it, you've already got that dream in. You're at work, right? You're in it. You're up to your elbows in it. And if you're not, then you should just let go of it, because it's just BS. You're not really doing it. It's just something to sedate you from the kind of mundane life you currently have. I would only invite something like that into my life because I'm serious about doing it. I don't want anything that anesthetizes me to the BS I'm in. I want to face that. I want to take that on. I want to handle that. And I'm going to keep bringing things into my life that are more in line with the life that I'm after. And I'm constantly doing that. There's constantly things coming in, like extending myself and bringing things in that be challenging or too much or whatever. I'll bring those things in because of the privilege that it is to use my life on that thing, not so that someday this all turns out for me. I mean, that someday, you know, that'll be the day I die. I don't really care about someday. I'm really interested in this one. And right. What can I make this one about? And look, sometimes that's a confronting question for people to ask themselves, is to stop right now and wherever you are, if you're listening to this in your car or you're sitting on the couch or lying in your bed staring at the ceiling, and get present to your life right now. This is what you've made your life about, the one you're in. And I would say scrap all those dreams and pick something and start including it in your life right now. So if that means, you know, I want to move to Albuquerque, or I want to get married, or I want to have children, I want to start a business, you got to make your life about it. And if it includes like sometimes it's painful things like I'm getting a divorce, then that's right. But you're either going to take the step into that, whatever that thing is, or you're going to perpetuate the life you've got. And that's what people are doing right now. They're perpetuating the life they've got. And that will continue until you start to introduce the life you're after and get to work on that now. And you'll notice the quality of now rises.
One of the worst words that I think should be eliminated from our vocabulary is the word hope.
Right. Yeah, I'm not a
hate when
hoper.
people say, I hope something.
Yeah, I don't do hope. I don't do try. And again, it's not arrogance. It's just they're completely useless. They don't provide anything. People are like, oh no, hope provides something. No, it doesn't provide anything. Like, again, if you're driving your kids to school, hoping you'll get them there, it doesn't really fill the passengers with confidence. Right? Like, imagine you get on the plane, right? You're sitting there. This is your pilot. We're going to be taking off in about 6 minutes. I hope to get you to LA. What do you mean you hope to get us to LA? Are you taking us or not? Right? Like, that's funny.
Get me off this plane.
I know. Like, it's like the guy, people say, well, I did most of it. Imagine him going, I did most of the checklist and we're going to be leaving.
Right. But we live our lives using those shitty words, hope and try. And...
Right, because we don't want to hold ourselves to the kind of certainty of the alternative. But that is the trick. The trick is to hold yourself to the certainty of the alternative. That's why people don't make promises. Like, I'm going to save up $5,000 this year, and that's my promise. Because now you got to do something about it. So they say shit like, well, I hope to save up some money. That means if they manage to get $18 in the bank, it was a win. Right. It's nonsense.
The vague ask.
Right. So I think you got, and this has a lot to do with my approach, I guess. I cut out the BS with people because that's what they need to do. Right. I love people. I have a huge compassion for people and what they've had to deal with. And me talking about that will not get you what you want. It won't. I can have room for you. I can include where you're at when I'm talking to you. But I am not going to dwell on that. We're going to give that like a very short attention span. I get it. You're hurting. You're in pain. It's been a struggle. Whatever the thing might be. I get all that. What we're going to focus on is now what? And that really needs to be like where people are coming from. It's like they look at your life and say, I look at all the stuff that's going on around me. Now what? Right? And what people invariably say is the next thing that comes out their mouth is why they can't. Well, if I wasn't dealing with this, I would do it. And I can't. Get all that aside. Okay, all of that there, all to your left hand. Look to your right hand and say, given all of this here on the left hand, what am I going to do right now? What am I about to do? And I'm either perpetuating what's on that left hand or I'm bringing in something new.
I love it, Gary. You're so awesome. And your book, Stop Doing That Shit, is available either today or tomorrow, depending on when I put this podcast up. But May 7th is pub day, and I'm looking so forward to it.
Me too. It's going to be great.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, Meredith. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye.